And this is the last video for today, and it is an advice that my uncle gave me. This is an advice that my uncle gave me, and I know that that advice can look can kind of difficult to understand if you don't understand the point, but later on after I made my decision, I made my choice in life, for some reason I realized that what he told me when I was in high school, it was a discussion, and I didn't take it like seriously. Maybe if I took that advice at the time seriously, maybe I would have think life differently. Okay. And being someone from the law, okay, he studied law, so I guess maybe he has the reason why he had this conviction of that. And he said that the thing is, I understand why sometimes we make some wrong decision. In my case, I made the wrong decision because I didn't understand the purpose of being with someone, the purpose of marriage. I didn't understand because I thought that, and I think like Dr. Miles Monroe used to say, we learn everything. We have the manual learning everything, learn how to drive, learn how to do this and that, but we do not have a real manual, a book, to know how to, what is marriage, what is it to live married, and what are the requirement, the requirement of all this for marriage. And sometimes you end up being frustrated because, I was frustrated because from at some point you see that you don't speak the same language. You don't speak, when I say language, it's not the speaking. Of course we speak different language. I am a French speaker, he's an English speaker, but the language of what you want to achieve, the language of life, and I didn't understand it. So, and I didn't understand it, okay? It's later on, after the thing that I understood that there was something wrong, and that it couldn't, because me, I'm a person, I think a lot, and I try to think a lot, and I try to project myself in the future. And I saw that at some point, something that I should have done from the start was to know the person and project already in the future, to see if we have the same ambition, if you have the same way to see things, okay? Unfortunately, I didn't do it because as I say in my previous video, the society, the African society, the African culture is like, if you're not married, if you don't have children at a certain age, you have failed in life, which is completely false, okay? There are people who got married later and have a very happy marriage. There are people who got married earlier and it's not, some of them are happy, some of them problem, okay? But what is best? I don't know. Sometimes people say it's better to get married older. I think I understand why they say that, because older give you more maturity, and only people who are adult and mature should get married. People who are not adult or mature, who are not mature, shouldn't. But people have learned, because even people, you would say that, but in the old days people are getting married early. Yeah, because people in the early days were mature very early. Today is very different. You don't see how men, you see how men are today. You see how they handle. Look today, I give you an example. One day I was at the mall. I was sitting outside because God teach me by looking. God teach me a lot by looking what is happening around me. That's why sometimes I don't like I don't like noise. I just don't like it sometimes. So I'll be sitting quietly and observing people, just, just like that. And that day, I saw two different couples, okay? The first couple came, it was like sorry for my English, oh my God. Well, I put the word there. So the first couple came, they were in the parking lot. The lady opened the door, they left, and then they start crossing the road to get into the store, okay, to the mall. Young couple, beautiful, the man with muscle, everything, the new trend of men, muscle, tattoo, everything, okay? This is the trend today. And the wife was kind of walking behind a little bit. They were talking together, but she was behind, and the man was walking in front. I think they have a child. The woman had a child on her hand. She had a child. They were walking, the three of them together. The three of them together, they were walking. And the husband was in front. Young couple. And then suddenly, I look on the other side and I saw a couple. And they were old school now, old couple. They parked the car. Not so long, a few minutes after the young couple was crossing the street, the older couple, they parked, okay? The man they were already old. They were really old. The man, he came out of the car, he opened the door to his wife. The wife came out. He took her hand. I was amazed. He took her hand. He closed the door. He took her hand. He helped, they were about to cross the street, like the first couple, the young couple. He made her wait. He was still holding her hand. He looked left and right. He was still holding her hand. They crossed the street. He was still holding her hand. They went inside the mall. He was still holding her hand. When God showed me that, God just showed me that. You see, look, the couple. The young couple who are supposed to do that, they don't. The older one who are old school, who have maybe more modesty in the way they express their love, you see how the man took his position as a man. He was holding his wife's hand from the beginning to the end. You could see that the wife was feeling safe, and that's what the man's supposed to do. Okay, so back to what I was trying to say. I was talking about the mistake we made usually, and sometimes I don't know why in our culture we ban so many things. Some of the things that we are doing in our culture seems kind of difficult or hard, but when you look, they make sense. Things that people were doing before, and maybe that's why marriage people could stay married longer. Not married because they have to force to be together, because they have to struggle, but have to prove that they are no. But because people understood how and why, and then sometimes they just do. I understand that in Africa it's different because women, the culture, some culture can be very oppressive to women. But for people who understood, okay, there are things that we were doing. My uncle told me one thing, and he told me one thing. You only marry up or sing. You never go down. And I didn't understand. He said, there are different social status. It doesn't happen often that you have from a normal, like you say, a commoner. You say commoner, and then you get married into royalty. You see, like for example, Letizia, Queen Letizia of Spain. She married Juan Carlos. Is Juan Carlos the Bourbon, right? No, sorry. She married Felipe de Asturias, right? She married Felipe de Asturias. I'm sorry about that. Oh my God, this is shocking. Okay, she married Felipe de Asturias because Juan Carlos was the father, was the king, was the father who abdicated, and he let Felipe de Asturias to become king. And yeah, but he was already married to Letizia, who was a journalist, I think. Okay, it doesn't happen often. Now you have people who have, for example, billionaires, like for example Elon Musk and people like that. Okay, and all these categories of billionaire. You have maybe the other one who are middle class family. Okay, they are in the middle, they do the best, and then you have those who are just okay, nothing. My uncle told me that the best way, the right thing to getting married for women, even for men, because you will see that people from the class under, the way they think is not going to be the same. It can be offensive. What I say can be offensive, I understand, but there are some truths, and that's why sometimes families before giving their son or their daughter to marriage, they want to meet the family first. They choose. They knew what they chose first. They knew what they chose. I prefer that you marry this family. It wasn't something of, it's because people, it's something, that was important at the time. Because, the quality, I understood later that the partner that you have been choosing, not only determine your future, but it tells a lot about how you think, how you see life. Do you understand? It's something, I don't know how to explain that. The person that you want to marry, okay, or the partner that you are going to choose, it tells how you see life, how you view life, and how you will, it's like it defines something about you. If, for example, you marry a partner, for example, and that's just a lesson that I've learned later from my mistake, who have no ambition. Person, no real ambition, for example, okay, it's just an example. Or it just tell you, because men are very good men are very good at it. They tell you everything, and then you realize that the moment you are together, you realize that he has no ambition really. When you have someone like that, okay, you go nowhere for sure, and it shows something. It tells something about you too. I don't know if I have explained that. So he say, you marry up or you marry same, because the moment you marry down, it will be difficult not only to go at the level where you are, but even to go up. Unless you have no ambition, it's very normal, okay, I understand that. If you have no ambition in life, you don't have dreams, you don't have thirst, yeah, I understand. If you marry down, okay. But then people can say, but Letizia, there are people who come from, for example, very humble family background, and they are fighting to become, and then some of them succeed. Sometimes, I don't know about everything, but if you come from African, I talk about for Africans, you know how our culture is. You marry someone who maybe in her family or in his family is maybe the only one who tried to succeed. The person is doing good, but the family, you understand? It's like you are going to work together, you are going to do stuff together, but the family will still be like a problem. And that's why some people say, because the problem will be like, even if she's the only one, that's the problem. She's the only one. In Africa, you cannot cut your family off. Okay? You have to take care of them. Especially if you are the one who has succeeding. You have to take care of everybody. So the husband or the wife, you have to go also through the same, you have to accept the situation. And then you have to live the consequences of that situation. You understand? The effect of that. That's why it's very difficult. Unless the person is from a very rich family. If you are from a rich family, you don't care if you spend money on the family of the wife or the husband who is from that kind of family. Yeah, maybe you don't care. But if you are somebody who is also fighting and want to go up, it's going to be difficult. You will make decision that will make your life kind of difficult. Okay, and it makes sense. He told us, the moment you marry down, it's easy to go down. And then it's a law. I don't know how to say it. It's a natural law. That's why he say the birds of the same. If I have to find the same, they fly together. You cannot, if you have, for example, someone of ambition, it will be difficult to marry someone who has no ambition. You will see that the person who has no ambition, that person will slow your, I'm telling you, it's going to be difficult for you to rise and to go where you want to go. That's why some people sometimes make decisions, you know what, I give up. And sometimes I understand that sometimes, maybe that's why in Africa, sometimes some men, when they get married to women in the same tribe or the same culture, the same country or whatever, and then the man, it happened. And then the man, he had dream, but the wife, but because it's the culture, because the culture wants you to get married, they don't take time to ask question. Okay, they just get married. The woman, she's beautiful, she may be trying to do her best, but she's kind of okay. So sometimes at the end they realize that I have dream, but that woman didn't help me. She wasn't like something that could push me to go more, you know. And sometimes at the end they resign. They feel like, you know what? So they become indifferent in the house. They become, sometimes you will see, he will do the bare minimum to just live. And you know, I don't know if you see what I mean. Sometimes some people in front, it's like he's now like resigned. He's no longer interested by anything, because everything that he has been thinking, or she has been thinking, or you know, want to be and do, and the partner has been like a strain to that. But because you have to look good in the society, and then divorce is something that they cannot accept, because in Africa, if you are divorced, it's like it's a failure, or people will see that as a shock. So sometimes they stay there and they live inside, but you can see that he's already empty, he's cold inside. He's just living here the life and then normal. I understand, and that is the reason why people before, they were choosing themselves. They were choosing. I don't say that it's good, because there are things that we have banned, we have completely changed. They say, oh, it's time for revolution, and things like that, women have the right to choose and so on. But with time, we have been seeing that maybe our choice wasn't always good, because sometimes today, people want people to arrange marriage and so on. I don't say that arranged marriage is necessarily good, but in some situation, there are people who are proven, especially when you see like rich families, sometimes they do that. Why? Because it's about keeping the not only the name, but some, you know, people were doing stuff before, and I realized that every change that you have been bringing, sometimes haven't always been good with time, you know, and people knew what they were doing, some stuff. I know that you have to love the man you marry, but sometimes you see people love each other from the beginning, and then later on, you know, it means that it has to be something inside that determines the marriage, you know. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that when I hear today people speaking like that, people like, because there was a woman who was telling her daughter in a video that do not marry a poor man, or do not marry a man who thinks like that, because it will pull you down. And that is true. And that is so true. If you marry a man or woman who is from the down, who has no ambition, for example, and usually it's easy to fall than to go up. So my uncle was usually saying that marry at least same, you know, same level, like you see that it's same, but the best is to marry up. Go up, or do not, or simply do not. If you don't marry up, then do not marry. It's difficult when I think about it. You tell me what you think about it, but it's kind of difficult when you hear some type of advice. But when you look carefully, sometimes it's right.